All right.
All right, there you go.
So let me go to the channel and see what it looks like.
Yeah, no problem. I automatically got a notification.
All right. So now I can just go on there and edit it, basically.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
All right. All right. I changed the title.
Cool. Let me know when you want me to remove the header.
Let's do it.
Cool. And we are live. Well, we've been live, but here's us now.
Let's see.
Cool. Yeah, let me know when you want the video to start, and I'll get it going.
All right. You there?
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. I had to mute the YouTube because it's like a little bit of a delay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just saying, just let me know when you want me to start the video, and I can start it.
Yeah, we can go now.
Cool. I'm gonna start it right now from the very beginning, and I hope it's not too loud for everybody who's hopefully comes in and watches this. Yeah. All right.
I'm gonna set up my screen on my movie. All right, what's up, guys? Grindhouse Grotto here, and I've got a guest speaker, the real James Grimm. And tonight we're doing something a little bit different. We are doing a live stream watch along of Night of the Living Dead 1968, the original grandfather of zombie films. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite zombie films, but you got to give it credit for basically building a legacy. Basically, George Romero started the whole zombie subgenre with this film. So, this film was super groundbreaking at the time, and that's the reason why I wanted to do this review, do this watch along with the real James Grimm, because I love this movie and I enjoy zombie films, and I'm going to have an upcoming continuation of my Forgotten series, Volume 2, where I'm going to be talking about zombie films. The previous Volume 1, I did, lesser known slasher films. With Volume 2, I'm not going to be talking about lesser known zombie films. Some of them might be a little bit lesser known than others, but for the most part, I just kind of want to talk about my favorite or the most influential zombie films that have come out. And so that's kind of where I'm going with that. What are your thoughts on it, James?
On the movie itself or the Forgotten series? Because I'm pretty excited for the Forgotten series, or the zombie series.
Series, and then Night of the Living Dead, and where it stands in the plethora of zombie films.
Well, I think just in general, cinema and horror, horror cinema or just cinema in general, it's definitely like George Romero, the grandfather of horror, in my opinion, or at least zombies. It's definitely very influential. We wouldn't have all the zombie movies and TV shows we have today. There would be no Walking Dead, Return of the Living Dead, Resident Evil. It's just such there's just so much about this movie that is so great. Even looking back at a movie from 1968, and I don't watch a lot of old movies. It's a great movie. It definitely stands the test of time, in my opinion.
Right. Let me just kind of try to sync my my movie a little bit.
Sure.
Get it to where it's at, because I want to kind of get get it to where it's at.
Yeah, they're very influential movie, definitely.
I think it's kind of set. All right, guys. So yeah, if you're tuning into our channel, welcome tonight to the watch along. Like I said, I really love this movie. I enjoy pretty much all the George Romero zombie films. It just basically started a trend in cinema at the time, where you had the Universal monsters of the 40s and 50s. A lot of these old school black and white horror films, these monster movies, and then George Romero came along and he wanted to do something really controversial and very yeah, just very frightening for the time. People never had seen anything like this, and I think that's what made popularity with the Night of the Living Dead movie and then future zombie films that came out. So that was kind of my inspiration with doing the volume 2 of the Forgotten series. Was I kind of wanted to explore the origin of the zombie films and why I enjoy zombie films so much. And I'm pretty excited for the new season 9 of The Walking Dead. I love The Walking Dead, and I was kind of a little disappointed about it with the previous seasons, but we'll see what happens with this season. What are your thoughts on the new Walking Dead, James?
Well, the trailer wasn't bad. The trailer actually looked pretty good. I'm excited about the Whisperers, because did you hear at the end of the trailer? Did you hear like the whisper or the zombie whisper? It was crazy. The fact that Rick may be dying or is leaving the show, which they say confirmed, which I mean, until I see it, I don't believe it. But if that's the one thing that's kind of like holding me back from continuing watching the show. But if they can build development with other characters, and if I can somehow love another character like I do Rick Grimes, that sounds weird, but I've been watching this guy for going on 9 years, so I've really there's that sense of you love this character, you don't want to see them die. It's just like with a lot of shows, it almost feels like the end of The Walking Dead for me. But if they can figure out a way of making character development and making other characters that I can care for and relate to, maybe I'll continue watching it. Maybe I'll backtrack what I said a couple months ago or weeks ago about stop watching it. So we'll find out this October.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way about Rick's character. I just can't see how the show is going to continue without Rick. I mean, he's a very central piece to the show. We've basically followed Rick's character throughout, and I'm disappointed a bit. I'm really disappointed with it, but I think the show can survive if they do it right. Somebody's going to have to step up, and I don't know who that person's going to be. But you brought up a good point about the Whisperers, and I don't know too much about the Whisperers because I haven't followed the comics too much, but I saw on a channel somewhere where they were talking about how there might have been actually a part of the trailer where it was teased. Rick's death was teased in the trailer. Did you see what I'm talking about, James?
Oh yeah, the new trailer. Yeah, there's that his death was revealed in the trailer, but it was maybe too quick for someone to be able to really tell. There's been a lot of videos and people breaking scene by scene, breaking it down scene by scene, which is possible. I mean, it appeared when Rick's like just chilling there, and then he turns over and looks, and there's like a walker or a zombie there. I think it's a walker. And I think the walker stabs him. Zombie or Whisperer. I'm sorry.
Yep. Makes sense. We've got Stephen Crumley with us, and he's here joining us tonight. And he said that he saw the 1990 version, which I do enjoy quite a bit as well. I would say I still prefer the classic 1968 version over the 1990. I mean, I do enjoy them both, but I just enjoy the creepiness and it being in black and white and just the gritty feel of the original over the 1990 version. But yeah, glad to have you here, Steve, and we really appreciate you supporting our channel, and you've definitely been a huge patron to our channels as of late, and I really greatly appreciate you supporting us, man.
And we got Pizzal in here as well.
Oh, awesome. Hey, what's up, Izzo, man? Thanks for joining us, man.
Did I pronounce that wrong?
I think it's Pizzal, or some people say Pizzal, but I say Pizzowell.
Okay.
he can kind of fill us into how you pronounce it. What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. I actually remember watching a live stream of Night of the Living Dead on Pizzawell's channel, which was pretty cool. And I tuned in for pretty much the whole watching of it. It was pretty fun. There were a lot of really good comments on there. People seem to really enjoy it. And it's pretty cool that you can watch this movie on YouTube without your video getting banned. So I'd like to be able to find some more movies that we can do this with.
Yeah.
This part in this movie really bugs the hell out of me, where he's like breaking the window with the rock, and that pisses me off. It's always irritated me about this movie because like at this point in time, George Romero didn't like really define the rules of zombies yet, and it wasn't until like Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead and some of these other zombie movies where like the rules of zombies were kind of like set in stone. So it's like, it kind of irritates me because it's like, how the zombies got to be thinking to pick up a rock and be able to break the window. He had to think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the zombies that we all remember kind of like are brainless. They're just dead, and they're just, they have one urge, and that's to eat. You know?
Yeah. I think at the time, Romero, he had an idea of what he wanted. He just didn't have it, polished yet. The idea of what a zombie is and
right.
What they do and what they're capable of. And of course, eventually it became a very polished genre, thanks to him. But yeah, I agree. It's just weird. You just see him, like the remake, you see the one guy who's just kind of tore up and he's just taking this block to the window. It doesn't make sense in today's day and age. Maybe back then, but but it's been polished, and I definitely get what you're saying though, for sure.
Yeah, that's like my only gripe about this movie is that one scene. Like everything else, I don't really have an issue with. But it's weird because, like, when that dude, the zombie in the graveyard, when he's walking around, and like when she first sees him, she thinks it's just some random guy walking around the graveyard. And I don't know if he's at that particular scene, if it's like he just recently turned, so he's not like full-fledged zombie yet. Because like you can see the difference. Like in the beginning, when he's in the graveyard, he's kind of still like a little bit human. And then when she gets at this barn, and he's walking towards her, now he's like full-fledged zombie. He's like acting like a zombie. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you caught on to that, but
no. Now you're referring to this one, right? Not the remake.
Yeah, I'm referring to the '68 version.
Okay, so now that makes me want to pay attention really a lot to this scene because I didn't realize that before.
Yeah, watch next time you watch this movie, if you get a chance, watch the graveyard scene with the graveyard zombie, and when she first notices him, he kind of looks like he just got bit and he just turned because he kind of acts like a little bit more human. And then when he's chasing her towards the barn or the farmhouse where she's at now, he starts acting more like a zombie as the movie progresses. But I don't know. I really found her character to be kind of annoying a little bit. I kind of preferred her portrayal in the remake over her portrayal in this movie. Back then in the '60s, I think women were like perceived a little bit to be kind of like weak and naive a little bit. So that kind of might have played into a little bit of her portrayal. Whereas, in the '90s, early '90s, when they made the remake, women were a little bit more stronger, a little bit more opinionated. So they tried to portray her character a little bit more tough.
Yeah, definitely. I just noticed our chat board is actually not syncing up. I will be doing that right now.
Yeah, that scene with the all the animal heads on the wall kind of reminds me of Psycho a little bit. And I think it might have been George Romero paying a little bit of homage to Psycho. Yeah, I'm not seeing. Let me look at my phone real quick and see if we're actually getting more comments. I apologize, everybody, if we're not seeing your comments. For some reason, they're not coming up very much.
There you go. Fix it.
Okay.
Also, you who are tuned in, is the volume too low? Is it too high? Just go ahead and comment below and let me know so I can try and get that fixed for you. Comment below and let me know so I can.
All right. Sorry, guys, get this on. But anyways, see, all right, this scene right here where he's all walking around and he's kind of like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, man. It's like he doesn't do that in the beginning part of the film. So I mean, I don't know. That's just kind of how the zombies are, I guess, in this movie. They don't even call them zombies in this movie. They call them ghouls, which they didn't start calling them zombies until later on with the other zombie movies that came out.
Cool. Thanks, Steven. Just want to make sure the volume's set correctly so it doesn't... It's not too loud, you know.
So what is everybody, if you're drinking tonight or you got some snacks, what does everybody got?
Well, me, I got some extra toasty Cheez-Its.
Nice.
And my beer is just a light beer. I prefer not to discuss it. We talked about this earlier.
Beer, man. I know. It's a poor man's beer. I got Miller Lite. And this is like my go-to kind of cheap beer. I don't get any cheaper than Miller Lite because after that you're pretty much just guaranteed hangover. And I've also got a Buffalo Wild Wings bowl full of chips. And I snagged a bunch of these from somebody that I know that works there, so I got a big stack of them, and I load them up with different snacks that I want to eat and everything, instead of having to dirty up a dish.
Yeah, Steven, they are pretty good. This is the first time I've ever tried them, and I'm actually very happy with how they taste. It has I don't know, it just tastes extra toasty, but yeah, it's good. I just realized I'm wearing my badge from work. I hope none of my clients ever watch this video.
So I want to talk a little bit about Ben's character in this movie, and I really enjoy Ben's character a lot. I read his Wikipedia page and kind of went to the IMDb website and kind of looked at some of his other work, and I think he's had a couple other movies that he was pretty big in. But the thing about Ben's, the actor that portrayed Ben in this movie, is he actually died at a really young age. He was, I think, in his late 60s when he died. So yeah, I really enjoyed his portrayal of Ben in this movie, and I wish he would have made more movies because he's a really good actor for his time. And you got to think a little bit about this movie. That this movie was released during the the Martin Luther King era, where everything was segregated, and it was still a period of time in our history where our country was divided by race.
Yeah.
And to have an African American lead in the movie is a pretty big feat for back then.
And the guy did a fantastic job.
He really did. I really enjoy his character a lot.
And that's weird too. You see that how he just broke the headlight?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like there at some points in the movie, the zombies are smart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like you would never see them do that in Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead. Like, well, I mean, yeah, Bub in Day of the Dead, but that's because he had somebody teaching him things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in Dawn of the Dead, there was nobody teaching the zombies. So how the heck did they learn how to do these things? But yeah, that's just because, like I said, the rules of zombie films were not really set in stone. So I think George Romero was kind of making this up as he went along.
Just going to town on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would have loved to be able to do a Dawn of the Dead or a Day of the Dead watch along. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, you can still do it, but you just can't have the video in the background, which kind of sucks, but you just got to basically have your viewers kind of sync up to the movie at the same time.
Yeah.
Hey, Pizzo man, you there? Pizzo well. Let's see if yeah, I've always anytime I've ever watched any kind of commentary on this movie, they always talk about how resourceful Ben was. Yeah. It's like he was the only one that actually like gave a damn about surviving, you know?
Yeah.
Or was smart enough to know like, hey, we need to do this or we need to do that. Everybody else was kind of just like they were just idiots, you know what I mean?
He just looks like a man who wants to survive and is not scared of anything. And yeah,
badass.
You know, his survival instinct had kicked in, and yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some you know, George Romero is definitely he's known for his social commentary and you know, stuff that's very big, really big at the time. And I definitely think he casted Ben's character basically because of the political climate at the time. You know, the what was going on during the late '60s with Martin Luther King and you know, the African Americans getting their rights restored and all that. You can see that in this movie, and I want to comment on something at the end of the movie, and I kind of want to see what people's thoughts are on it, but I'm going to kind of save it towards the end because it's kind of at the end of it. And I actually want to give a shout out to Pizzawell because he pointed out to me when I watched his live stream several months ago. I was watching on his channel, and it really made me think about it a lot because I'd never really thought of it that way. But yeah, I'll save that towards the end of the movie, and hopefully people will kind of chime in on it and tell me what they think about it.
Now you got me interested because I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to. Is it? I'll just wait.
It's referring to the ending of the movie.
Yeah, where I'm assuming everyone's watched this movie. So should I say what I think you're gonna say?
Yeah, go ahead, and I'll let you know if that's what
I'm not going to go into detail, but is it about the end where he's actually not turned, or he's not even a zombie, and he gets shot anyways?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about, because it's like, it makes you question, did they know he was a zombie? Or did they think he was a zombie and they killed him? Or did they know he wasn't a zombie and killed him anyway because he was an African American?
That's a good point, and I never thought about that. And yeah, I can't wait to hear what you say about this stuff. Very interested now.
It might have been like a little Easter egg thrown in there by George Romero, a little bit of social commentary, and kind of get people to think, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because in the remake, they had it so he was turned, and then he was shot.
Right.
So they made that very clear. While in this one, I thought it was pretty clear in this one that he was still alive, and it wasn't very clear if they had mistaken him for a zombie or a ghoul, as you say in this movie, or a live African American, and they decided to to take him out.
Yeah, honestly, after I'd watched that live stream with Pizzawell on his channel, on subsequent viewings that I've watched it, to me it looks like they saw him and they recognized that he was alive and they decided to kill him anyways. That's the way. I mean, I've heard different people's opinions on it, but that's kind of, now that I've thought about it, that's kind of where I think he was going with it. It was kind of like a spin on the end of the movie and being like, get people to think a little bit, you know?
Oh yeah.
And also too, the guy in the basement and his wife and his daughter, they want to stay in the basement. He wants to stay upstairs because he thinks that it's safer for them to be upstairs because they have an easy way out. Whereas if you're down in the basement, you're gonna get trapped. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like pitting like a white man versus like a black man. And I hate to be like that, but that's kind of like what was going on at the time. You know what I'm saying? The racial tension. It's like it was making the people watching the movie kind of like pick a side. You know what I'm saying? Like, whose side are you going to be on, kind of thing. And whether that was intentional or not, who knows?
It's a really good point. It's like he wanted to stay downstairs. This is the white man's area of the house. You go stay upstairs, stay the black man's area of the house. And
Right.
But when in reality it should have been everyone's house, that they should have been boarding up like he is and taking care of everything, rather than splitting up and having a divide, because at this point it's people versus the zombies.
Right. We got another guest, Nitrum. What's up, man?
Hey Nitro, how's it going, man?
Thanks for tuning in, man. We really appreciate the support. Yeah, this movie's pretty awesome, man. I used to be scared to death of this movie when I was a little kid. I think this is like one of the first black and white horror movies I've ever seen. And I think as a kid, because it was a black and white movie, it made me scared even more, and kind of like made me think it was more of like a dream when I was watching it.
It has an aspect, huh?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's like, especially if it's really like shitty quality. Like the poorer the quality, to me, the creepier it is. I'm doing good, Nitrum. How about you, man? What you been up to? Hell yeah, man. Speaking of that, let me show everybody. Sorry if I'm chewing too loud. I'm just really hungry, by the way. So it probably sounds like I'm chewing like a cow. But anyways, speaking of going out and buying the movie, I want to show everybody kind of what I own. I own an early release of Night of the Living Dead on VHS. That's the first one I got. And then I'm actually watching this right now while we're watching it on my live stream. I've got this version playing on my VHS player, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
And I don't have it on DVD, but I got it on Blu-ray, and this is a Canadian release. It's from what is the name of this? It's just called Network is the name of the company that produced this, but it's a region-free release, Canadian release. And long before this had gotten a U.S. release on Blu-ray, this was like the only release that you could find was this Canadian release, and I've had this for the longest time.
Nice, but you said you're watching this on VHS right now, right?
Right. I prefer watching it like on like the original VHS, because that was like the way I saw it when I was a little kid. Kind of brings back memories a little bit.
Oh yeah, the like the 499 bin or something like that, right, Nitrum?
Oh yeah. Yep. So I mean, these other characters in the movie are just like so helpless.
Yeah.
Especially the I can't even what is her name? Judith? Is that her name? I can't even remember what her name is. The female actor.
The actress's real name or in the movie?
No, what's her real name in the movie? Like, what's her character name? I can't even remember. It's like how like that's how like to me that's like how bad her character is. Like I don't even know what her name is. Like I know Ben because he's like the main character, but like her, I can't even remember what. Oh, Barbara. I'm sorry, Barbara.
Oh yeah, I'm coming to get you, Barbara.
That's like I should have known that. But this goes to show you that like her character is just not very well developed. You know.
She's not very memorable, in my opinion. Like.
Yeah. She doesn't have that many lines in the movie. Ben's just basically talking throughout most of it, and she's just kind of whiny. Like I said earlier, the remake did a better job, I feel like, with her character a little bit.
Yeah.
They tried to make her...
do you think, maybe because we were talking about this a little earlier about just this general subject or this topic is, she's a white lady who looks like a privileged, upper class white lady, and she's in this house with this African American dude, and she's just staying quiet. Now, you can say, yeah, maybe she's in shock of what just happened to her brother, but you can tell just by she's just staying silent. She's like she doesn't want to talk to this guy. It almost seems that way, at least.
Yeah, I think the political climate during that time, like I don't really want to like get into politics or anything like that, or offend anybody, but if you think about the political climate back then, everything was very segregated. Everybody, racial tension in the United States was really high, and
right,
it was almost like wrong for a white woman to speak to a black guy. Like it just, I think about it, and I've got people in my family, really old school people, like grandparents, and some of my older people in my life that even to this day are kind of like closed off to African Americans. I mean, in our generation, we're all accustomed to it. We're all, everything's open, and it's not prevalent like it was in the '60s. But back then, people just didn't talk to each other.
Yeah. Today we're a little bit more open minded. Of course, we're going to experience similar things like back then, but we're all more open minded, and there wasn't that much of that back then. But like you said, not going to get political.
Yeah. But I definitely see where you're coming with that, James. Like I think it definitely, there's so much you can watch this movie, man, and it's almost like a study, a film study. There's just so much things in this movie you can watch, and you pick out little things that little Easter eggs in there.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Natrum. I have not seen that movie in so long. It's been many years, probably since I was a really young kid. It's been that long.
Mm-hmm.
Cool movie though.
Yeah. There was a movie that I looked up that God, what is his name? Dwayne Jones. Dwayne Jones is the actor that plays Ben in this movie. I had his name on the tip of my tongue. I just couldn't remember it. It's been a real long time since I looked up the actual actors that were playing the different characters. But I remember like about a year or two ago, I was watching this movie and I was like, damn, like his acting in this movie is really good for its time. You watch a lot of like these older like movies from the 50s and 60s, and the acting doesn't hold up for today's generation. Like you watch it and you're just like, it's so outdated. But his acting in this movie still is really good, even to today's standards,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But he one of these films that he plays in. He plays in this like voodoo movie or something. It's about like this like New Orleans like witch or whatever, and he falls in love with her, and it's kind of like a love story dealing with like voodoo and like in New Orleans. And I've been really wanting to watch it and kind of check it out. It sounds pretty interesting.
What's it called?
I can't remember the name of it offhand. I just remember the synopsis of it a little bit, but his character falls in love with this like lady down in New Orleans who's kind of like a voodoo queen or whatever, and she's like all into like black magic and stuff, and I don't know. I can't remember too much of the plot, but it sounded pretty interesting to me.
Damn.
Yeah, that was the slap heard across the world right there, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. That definitely probably raised some eyebrows back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Probably nothing like it would be today, though.
Yeah, nobody would even think anything of it. But back then, people were probably like refusing to watch the movie after that. But he was the only one that was like doing anything halfway smart in this movie.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for his character, everybody'd be dead like early on in the movie.
Oh yeah. 1968, I believe. 1968, correct? The release of this movie?
Yes, correct. Crazy to think, right?
Yeah.
It was
50
let's see,
years old.
10 years, 10-year difference between Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. And if you look at it, man, it's like damn, it seems like so much more time was passed between this movie and that movie. I mean, it looks like it's like 30 or 40 years have passed between Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead when it really was only 10 years. And then it was 7 years between Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead.
It's hard to believe this is like 50 years old.
Yeah. They just had the 50-year anniversary of this film earlier this year, and what was the company? Damn. They just had a Blu-ray release. They had the Criterion Collection, which Criterion, they are known for making like really good releases of movies. So they're like the top of the line, best quality Blu-ray release that you can get. I think the Criterion Collection release of this movie was like $40 or $50 when it first came out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I held off on buying it because I was like, how much more could they do for the picture quality on this? This is an old film. But from watching people's reviews and hearing people talk about it, they said that like this movie like looks ridiculous with the picture quality, the upgrades they did to it. It looks phenomenal on this Criterion Collection. Like it looks so good. So if it comes down in price, I'll definitely have to check it out.
How much did you say it was?
It was like almost $50 when it first came out, the Criterion Collection.
Oh, okay.
It'll probably goes for about $25, almost $30 now. It's still pretty expensive. So in my George Romero ranking, if I were to rank the at least the trilogy, the first three movies, I would actually have this one last. And I know some George Romero purists are probably gonna want to kill me after this. I love all the films. I love all the first three George Romero Dead films. Like, don't get me wrong, they're all classics. I love them all for different reasons.
Yeah.
The only reason I rank this last out of the first three is just because of its age alone. Like it's just old, you know what I'm saying? So like it's I enjoy it less for that reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah, did they do this in color?
They did do it in color, but I feel like the color version, like most people prefer the black and white over the color. I don't know. I don't mind the color version personally, but I do prefer the black and white better. It's just the way it was originally intended to look. So I think it gives it some kind of a certain feel to it. But I would say my ranking of the George Romero, the first three, would be Day of the Dead first, because Day of the Dead was released the year I was born, and I love the soundtrack of that movie. Really good soundtrack in that movie. I love it. It's like got the 80s funk to it. I love all the characters. I love Captain Rhodes' character, how crazy he is, and he's just like this fanatical, army captain who's super hardcore, and he just ready to kill anybody that doesn't comply with his doesn't agree with his management and the way he's running the bunker. And then so I like that movie as my number one, and then number two, really close. I mean, Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead are really close, but I have Dawn of the Dead second. It wasn't until a couple of years ago where Dawn of the Dead kind of like slipped down a little bit, and Day of the Dead kind of took over for me. And then of course Night of the Living Dead's number three. But that's how I would rank the first three films. What do you think,
Yeah.
James?
Sorry, I was chewing. I had you on mute, but Dawn of the Dead #1. Dawn of the Dead #1. Probably this #2, and Day of the Dead 3. And I only say that because it's been so long since I've actually watched Day of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time. But Dawn of the Dead is something I've always watched like every couple of years. And this, I've watched this movie so many times, as well as the remake, the first remake of this they did. So if I spent a weekend, well, were you ranking this one or were you ranking the remake, the first remake in color?
I still put the original over the remake anyway, so I don't think it would change at all, really.
Okay.
For me, it would change.
I'd probably
would put the remake fourth. Just right below the original.
I really like the remake a lot. It's one of those things where I haven't seen it in a long time. The last time I saw that movie was probably 6 years ago. So I would like to actually take a weekend to watch all these movies and then rank them at that point. But from like remembering the movies, it would be Dawn of the Dead, this, and then Day of the Dead.
And then of course you got the next three. I guess you could call it a trilogy after that. You had Land of the Dead, which came out I want to say 2005. So almost 20 years later, George Romero came out with Land of the Dead, and that one was okay. It had a pretty good. It did pretty good financially. It didn't do as well as the other films, but it wasn't a poor box office return by any means. It was enough for them to want to do another movie after that. So you got Diary of the Dead, which came out a couple years after that. And I hated Diary of the Dead. I don't like the found footage thing. I think it's very stupid. It doesn't belong in a zombie film. So that film right there is an abomination. And then you had the last one that he made, which was Survival of the Dead, which a lot of people don't like Survival of the Dead, but I actually do enjoy that a lot. I would put that ahead of Land of the Dead, in my opinion. I would put Survival, then Land of the Dead, and then Diary of the Dead last. Those are my thoughts on those films.
I haven't watched it. I haven't watched any of them.
They're worth the watching. I think they're pretty good. George Romero kind of fell off at that point, so they're not anywhere as near as good as the original three. They're nowhere. They feel like different films. They don't feel like the original George Romero films. And plus two, they added in the CGI effects. So the kills don't look very good. They're not practical effects anymore. The practical effects is what made they were what made the George Romero zombie films, in my opinion.
Right.
So now we're at the point in the movie where they're upstairs. They're all upstairs now. Yes, Nitrum. I would skip out on Diary of the Dead, and I would say go ahead and get you Survival. Survival is actually, I wouldn't say it's a great film, but it's a worthy George Romero film. I find it to be entertaining. It's not the best film, but it's definitely entertaining. And there's some CGI. For the most part, there's a lot of CGI in it. But at the end of the film, they did one scene in Survival where basically all these zombies are surrounding this horse, and it's the only zombie movie that I've seen where the zombies actually attack an animal. And so they bring this horse down. They take the zombies basically surround this horse, and they start ripping the horse apart. It's pretty freaking crazy, actually. So that's one of the coolest scenes in that movie that I enjoyed a lot.
One thing I was going to ask you, Now I know these in continuity wise, these are not, but sequels technically. But could you picture yourself counting the Dawn of the Dead remake a sequel to Night of the Living Dead remake?
Um,
I mean, I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure it's not actually.
no,
But
I don't
could
think
you
it is.
picture it as being it?
Not really, because too much time had passed, in my opinion. I
Oh,
mean,
in real years, yeah.
in real years, I mean, you just look at the style of the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead. It just doesn't look like the same time period. Um, like I was telling you that one time, George Romero wanted to go back and redo Night of the Living Dead so he could actually create continuity between the three films. So he knew that he couldn't recreate Dawn of the Dead because it was in the middle of the two movies, or the three movies. So it'd just be weird to have a brand new movie in between two other movies. But he was like, well, I've released Dawn and Day, and they're pretty close in age, and they look like they could be the same time period. So I'll just remake Night, and then it'll be basically like almost like Dawn's the first film, Day's the second film, and then the new Night of the Living Dead remake is the final film. So Dawn, Day, and Night. You see what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Instead of Night, Dawn, and Day. And that's kind of what he went for with the remake, was he wanted to add continuity. And when he was originally making the films, he was, because of budget restraints, the original script that he had got shot down. So the original script had a lot of continuity between the three films, and that was his plan. I mean, they weren't going to be direct sequels, but there was going to be enough little bit of continuity where it was going to be okay. One or two people were going to be carryovers from each film. Like I was telling you, Captain Rhodes was in the Dawn of the Dead, and if you've seen the Dawn of the Dead director's cut or the other various cuts of the film, there's deleted footage of Captain Rhodes, and Captain Rhodes is like he's a carryover in Day of the Dead, so he plays a role as a riverboat captain in Dawn of the Dead, and he brings this group of survivors to this bunker, or this community of people that are surviving, and he's the leader of that community, and that's how Day of the Dead was supposed to carry over. But since they redid the script a little bit, you don't see that little transition from Dawn of the Dead to Day of the Dead. You just kind of see them arrive at this bunker, and that's it. You see what I mean?
right.
But all of the films basically were going to have like one or two people that were going to be carryovers that were going to like probably die earlier in the film, and it was going to transition to the new group of survivors that they were going to be. The movie was going to be about. I really like the part in this movie that's going to come up soon, where they all get inside. They decide, all right, we got to get out of here, because they're hearing on the radio, they're hearing on TV that there's other patches of survivors all over the place, and they know that they can't hold up in the farmhouse forever. So their plan is, all right, we're gonna get in the truck, we're gonna get this truck, we're gonna refuel it, and then we're gonna find another place like where the military's at, and we're gonna get there. So this like young dude and his girlfriend decide to follow Ben out to the truck, and they go to fuel it up, and then basically it freaking explodes while they're fueling it because they're idiots. And I'll talk about it when we get to the point. But they're like eating the remains of their bodies, and it literally looks like they just went and picked up some meat from like the deli or something, or made some meat from the butcher, and they're like eating like a cow leg or something like that. You know what I mean? Like on some of the scenes, it literally looks like they're eating like just cattle meat.
Just raw meat.
Right. And there's one scene where I think they were trying to make it look like they were eating intestines, but it just looked like sausage links that the person was eating. I didn't enjoy the ending of the remake. How they changed it. How this guy, the guy in the basement, basically they both turned into zombies. Him and Ben turned into zombies. I didn't like that.
No.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's been a long time. Does the guy in the basement? He's not in the basement in the remake. He's up in the attic, right?
It's been about 6 years. I'd have to rewatch it,
I
but
think in the remake he doesn't go down into the basement. I think Ben's character goes down in the basement at the end, and this dude, the guy that's originally in the basement, he goes up to the attic. But they both end up being zombies. That little girl in the basement creeps me out, man.
oh, yeah, she is.
The one from our background.
Yeah, she is very makes me very uneasy.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Nitram, is the volume okay?
You still there, Nisha? Thanks, man. Hey, we really appreciate you tuning in, man. I didn't expect a huge turnout for this movie because I understand it's it's an older film and people got things to do on a Friday night, but we're still growing our channels, and hey, I just find it to be fun to rewatch these movies, and it's all about watching the movie, man, just having a good time. I think it's time for a refill on this beer.
Wait, oh, Martin, Revenge of the Fifth, Martin, right? I hope that's you.
Revenge of the Fifth.
It's a Halloween 5 mask that this guy, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Martin Pena, I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. He makes a Revenge of the, a Halloween 5 mask. He calls it Revenge of the Fifth, and dude, it's awesome. I love it.
Hell yeah, Steven, man. Hey, I really appreciate, man. You comment on all my videos, man, and I really appreciate your support, and you've given me a lot of good feedback in a lot of my videos, and I really do appreciate it, man. You're a good friend to me as well.
Yeah, Martin. I mean, Martin. Well, Martin too, but Steven, yeah, man. I really appreciate you, being so supportive of the channels, man. It's been it's awesome. It's an incredible journey that I'm glad you're in on it with us, because it's only gonna get better, dude. I promise.
Yeah, man. I definitely enjoy meeting people, cool people, and it's kind of why I wanted to do YouTube. Was it's a good hobby to me, and I enjoy just getting on here and talking about the movies that I love. But more importantly, man, it's just like meeting people and just socializing, and it's a cool thing to do on a Friday or Saturday night. So I plan on doing more of this in the future, and I know me and James talked about it, and we want to get a couple more people involved, kind of get more people on our live streams. And we talked about doing, some other stuff. Like we want to do a Halloween live stream when that gets closer. Maybe some Walking Dead. I've got some other cool things that I'd like to do, some live streams on as well.
I'm glad you brought this up. That this movie is public domain, so we can totally do this because like this is great. I really like this. This is lots of fun, and plus you seem to have a lot of extensive knowledge on these Romero movies. I mean, I watch them because I like to watch them, but you like know the shit. You know your shit, what you're talking about, and it's cool because it's gaining knowledge from you. It's awesome, man. And then having you guys come out and talk to us and kind of just enjoy this experience with us and the interaction. It's awesome, man.
What I was gonna say, there's a lot of really good public domain movies, and one of them that's one of my absolute favorites is The Fly, the original Fly. Have you seen that, James?
The original Fly. Oh no.
Yeah. The original Fly. God, I want to say it came out in like 1964. It's actually came out before this movie. But the thing is, it's in color, okay? So it was one of the earlier color films, okay? And that movie, have you seen the David Cronenberg remake in 1986?
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum?
Yes, that movie's freaking classic, man.
Love it, dude. Love it.
Dude, you gotta watch the original Fly, man. I would say the Cronenberg remake is obviously the better film. It's held up to the test of time, but for the original Fly, it's a classic, dude. You got to see it. I mean, I got to see it at least once. It's one of those films you just got to see it just to have it in your head and be like, wow, I watched the original Fly. It actually is a really good film. I enjoy watching it a lot. I've got the Fly box set. It's got all the Fly films in there. The first 3 original Fly films, and it's got the Cronenberg remake. And then the sequel to the remake, Fly 2.
Yeah, Martin, a Halloween one would be definitely dope, man. Because like you said, Halloween gave you nightmares as a kid. I think it gave us all nightmares, really. But yeah, Halloween, absolutely my favorite horror movie of all time. The very first one, the classic 1978. So yeah, love that movie.
Oh yeah. We're getting close to the
what's that? Oh.
I think we're like 3/4 of the way through this movie. And I feel like the end of the movie is like the better part of the movie. There's so much dialogue in the beginning part of this movie. It kind of drags for a little bit.
Mm.
But as it gets closer towards the end, and it's like more stuff going on with the characters, I feel like it gets better. Return to the Living Dead would be cool. I wouldn't mind doing that. The thing is, when you do like a watch along with a movie that's not public domain, you can't show the movie in the background like how we have it here because of copyright issues. Night of the Living Dead's public domain, so anybody could just go out there, rip this movie, stream it on YouTube, do whatever you want. You could even sell this movie if you want to, because George Romero never got copyright. He never got copyright for this movie. So it's up for grabs. Anybody can basically lease this movie, do whatever they want with it. So unfortunately, if you're going to do a watch along with another movie, the only way to do it is a live stream like we're doing right now. You can't show the actual movie, but you just have to have your audience sync into the movie at the same time, so everybody's watching the movie at the same time.
Yeah. What kind of punishment would there be? Like a temporary suspension, a ban maybe?
Well, I don't think anything would happen to your video unless somebody reported it. See, like for the most part, YouTube doesn't really do anything unless somebody reports the video for copyright. So somebody that's watching your video's got to report it, and then basically it just goes, it gets banned. And then they're not gonna shut your channel down. They're just gonna basically shut that one video down. And if YouTube sees you doing this repeatedly, then they can do a temporary ban on your channel. So if you get flagged too many times for having copyright stuff, then at that point YouTube will step in and actually ban your channel. But it won't be a permanent ban. It'll be like a ban for like a week or for your first offense, and then maybe like a month after that. So they got rules based off of how many times you violate the YouTube laws.
Right. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, Return of the Living Dead would be cool, man. I'd definitely enjoy that. It's a really fun horror movie, man. It's just one of those movies you just want to sit back on a Friday night and just crack a couple beers open and just with a couple of your homies and just kick back and enjoy the movie, man. I gotta admit, Linnea Quigley in that movie is smoking hot, man. That's definitely a good reason to watch that movie. You know what I'm talking about, James. Don't
Yeah,
lie.
I do. Sorry, I think I was crunching into the mic. I'm sorry if I was, guys. My bad.
Right. I mean, what movie that she's in does she not look good? Like, Linnea Quigley is, oh man, she's something else back in the day, man. She was, woo. Tell you what, I like pretty much every movie she's in. I like this part right here where they show the actual TV. And you know what they did with this, which I'm not 100% positive on this, but that's not actually a TV screen. It's like they overlaid like a stencil of a TV screen over the actual image. You see what I'm talking about?
Oh.
So they recorded the actual video, and then they put the stencil of the TV, like the frame of the TV over it, to make it look like they're watching the TV, but they're really not.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But every, you know what I found really cool is like pretty much every George Romero zombie film, they always have these different scenes where like they show this like news footage. I don't know if you noticed that. Like in this movie, Dawn of the Dead, they have a scene where they show like the news footage where they're watching a TV, and it talks about the outbreak a little bit. And then in the Dawn of the Dead remake, James, we were talking about it the other night with that one scene where God, what the heck's his name, man? The actor that plays damn, what the heck's his name, man? That one scene you had in your video where he's like, the dead are gonna walk the earth. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that scene in that movie is basically from a news clip in the movie, and all the movies do that. Like George Romero puts these little like news snippets in the movies. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, George Romero is, man, such an influential, filmmaker. And it's sad that he's gone,
Man, there's never gonna be anybody to replace George Romero. Just ain't gonna happen, man.
He's a legend for sure, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Return of the Living Dead 3 is a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. That girl in that movie is pretty freaking smoking hot too. I do enjoy her. See, I like movies for a lot of reasons besides the actual movie. Like I like ultra sleazy movies, so I mean, it's always a plus when you got a really hot chick in there and it's ultra sleazy. I ain't gonna lie, I'm a sucker for films like that.
I think we were talking about that, how I really love Return 1 and 2, and then when it got into part 3, I was like, what am I watching? It's like a romantic zombie film.
Yeah. Well, it's got a different vibe to it, man, because it came out, like, I think in 93.
Yeah, early
So
90s, yeah.
It feels a lot different than the first two. Like, it just feels more modern. It feels like a 90s film. And they dress differently in that movie. The actors just act a little different for that time period. And I definitely think what I like about Return of the Living Dead 3 compared to the other two is they really stepped up the gore and the makeup effects in that movie. Like, this shit's like top notch, man. Like, it's one scene in the movie where they go into this factory and there were the stuff that reanimates the dead in the first two films they're in these, they got these canisters that the government's got, these canisters, and they're experimenting on um, these dead soldiers. Okay, so they're trying to reanimate these dead soldiers from like World War II, and it's kind of crazy. But they're trying to use it as like weaponize this stuff and use it in warfare.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so they're bringing these like test subjects in, and they're trying to like reanimate them, but make them be normal and not like go crazy. And so that one girl like dies. She like crashes her motorcycle. You probably remember this from the movie.
Yeah.
And the kid brings her in there, right, to reanimate her. But she doesn't turn into a zombie right away. She's like still alive for a while, and she goes crazy.
Yeah, she has like glass shards, like crazy.
Yeah, she almost can't be. They almost made him into like a demon or something. It was crazy.
Yeah, I remember being a kid. I mean, as an adult, I haven't seen that movie in probably many years. And as a kid, though, I really enjoyed her.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, dude. That was the main appeal, man. I'm telling you, man. People, all right. I'm gonna fill you in about movies from the time periods, man. If you were a kid in the late '80s, early '90s, and you were like me, going into these video stores back then, and if your parents were allowing you to go in there by yourself, which I probably shouldn't have been because I was like 8, 9 years old going in there by myself, and I was wandering the aisles of the horror movies. And I would pick up the movie and I would look at the cover art and I'd be like, man, this thing looks freaking good, right? And so I saw the cover of Return of the Living Dead 3, and I was like, damn, man, this looks cool. You pop it in your VHS player, man, you're watching this shit, and oh snap, you get your favorite scene to happen in one of these movies. Hot chick that's naked, she's topless. I mean, come on now. We've all been there.
Yeah. I mean,
that was the appeal of movies back then,
Yeah.
for a young, teenage kid. That was the appeal of watching these movies, man. That's what they put in these movies to help sell them. I mean, you think about it. A lot of times, these films sold solely on the fact that young teenage boys wanted to rent these movies to watch some hot chick get naked.
Oh yeah, Friday the 13th.
Hell yeah.
They're like, we want to see boobs and Jason kill people.
Right.
I don't know. You're starting to sound like Mr. Cooper now. Why do you have to go out there? Look, I know how to handle that truck. And
This young guy's acting is not that great, man. I'm not gonna lie.
No.
For how long, honey? We're safe now. But there's gonna be more and more of those things. I know all that.
Now, the Scream series is pretty cool, man. I do enjoy Scream, actually. I'm not gonna lie. When Scream first came out, I didn't care for it too much because it's very like mainstream. It's very big budget mainstream horror, especially when it came out in the '90s. It was like all these like really pretty actors in the movie, really good looking people. They just didn't look like your average, neighbor or your Joe Schmo. If you watch a lot of slasher films from the '80s, like these people look like your average person, And when you got in the '90s, they were casting these like really good-looking like MTV type people for the movies, and that's why I originally didn't like Scream for that reason. But as I've gotten older, I kind of look past that. It doesn't bug me anymore, and I'll actually watch the film for what it is, and I really do enjoy the Scream movies quite a bit. So yeah, I'd be totally down to do a live stream of Scream.
I'm down. I recently just picked up all 4 of the movies, and it was like, I don't know, 5 discs or something total. It was like $10 on eBay. I got it for on Blu-ray, and I was like, oh dude, this is amazing. I love Scream. In my opinion, it's oh, man, there's not enough good things to say about Scream. I liked it as a kid, and I've never stopped liking that movie, and I'll watch the movie all the time. Wes Craven, he definitely took that, that genre, and sadly, Halloween H2O had some like slight inspiration or something from Scream, and that's just weird to think. But I mean,
now that you're saying that, give me 1 second. I'm gonna show you real quick that Halloween H2O ripped off Scream. I'm gonna show you. Give me 1 second.
All right. I mean, I believe you. I absolutely believe you. And it sucks, but that's, yeah.
All right. Just took me a second.
Dude, nice shirt.
Hell yeah, man. Had to go in my little movie room over there. And I want to show you the cover art, since we're talking about this. The cover art to the first Scream movie. And then H2O, the cover art that came out a couple years later. Okay, you ready for this? This is Scream. Okay?
Yeah.
Hope you all can see that. I hope there's no... Let me take it out of the case so you don't see any glare on it.
Yeah, I was going to say slight glare.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see because it's got a reflective. All right. Here it is right here. Y'all can see that now?
Oh, yeah, much better.
Okay. Now you see that cover art there.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to go to the Halloween H2O cover art. You see that?
It's like the same thing.
Dude,
I mean,
it's like exactly the same thing. It's got like, it's like in the same order. Like they have a bunch of people in there. The way, I'm going to put them side by side for a minute, dude. Side by side.
Yeah, the only difference is if they took the characters on Scream, moved them slightly more to the right in the upper right of the box cover, and then moved the, the chick covering her mouth to more to the left, and then it would be like a total ripoff. But
Dude,
yeah,
it's even crazier. Go ahead, James. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, I was done right there.
Okay, it's even crazier because I looked at these covers on this, and the write-ups that Siskel and Ebert and all these reviewers say, they say the same shit on each release, okay? Now, on this screen cover, it says, clever, hip, and scary, okay? The key word here is hip. Clever, hip, and scary. Now, this one says, on H2O, it says, sensational, smart, non-stop scary. In the back, it says, listen to this. Jamie Lee Curtis, sexy, smart, and stunning. But it says down here in one of the comments, it says like it's just the same like it's hip and scary. It even says it in like the write up in the back. Like they use the same thing to be able to describe both movies, right?
Yeah.
But I could pull out a handful of other movies from this time period, the middle of the '90s to late '90s, and like all those films basically were kind of like. They were ripping off each other. Like, they just kind of, like, used the same things. And Scream was, like, the reemergence of the slasher film. And these movies that were coming out after the fact, they wanted to kind of rip off the success of Scream to help their film do well. Yeah. So they made them stylistically the same. But anyways, that's what I want to share with you all.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's weird to, Scream is an influential movie. Wes Craven did a really great job on it. And it was so good that that Dimension Films decided that they were going to copy Scream.
Right. I was just, it's funny you said that because I never really paid too much attention to the cover art on these movies until one day I was going through my collection and I was putting everything, like organizing everything, and I was like, man, these cover arts are actually very similar. So I pulled out like Urban Legends. You ever heard Urban Legends?
Oh yeah.
And then I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was another one? Cruel Intentions.
Yeah.
All these films that came out around that same time period, literally the cover art looks almost exactly the same. It's got some people in there. They're kind of organized in a certain way. The font is pretty much similar in all of them. The write up on all of them is the same. You know, the marketing of these films is exactly the same thing. Like they're all trying to rip each other off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The good example of urban legend, urban legends, and then let's see what you said, urban legends, and then I Know What You Did Last Summer. Those are really great examples of films trying to copy the success of Scream.
Do you remember the movie Faculty?
Oh yeah, I love that movie actually.
Dude, that movie is freaking awesome. I actually got that movie not too long ago in my collection. I had forgotten about that film, and I watched it about a month ago. I was like, man, I really dig the hell of this movie, man.
Yeah, dude, Elijah Wood, Josh Hartnett.
Oh yeah, man.
Jordana Brewster.
Josh Hartnett was pretty good in that movie for real. Like I actually enjoyed his character in that movie.
They had a good cast too. They had T-1000 guy Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick had Usher in there.
Yeah. It was they had a pretty good cast actually, and it was a good movie. I mean, I really liked it.
Oh yeah.
They had the dude who plays Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore.
Mm-hmm.
He was Elijah Wood's character's dad. Yeah, man, that movie's great. Actually, I need to rewatch that again.
Oh yeah. All right, so they're getting to the point I think where they're going to show the zombies eating them. This is like my favorite part of the movie because it's like the early gore effects. Now, just some of it's actually pretty good. Like it looks like them eating like legs and stuff, but like some of it looks like they're literally just eating like butchered meat. Here we go, James. It looks like he literally just grabbed like a ham hock or something, dude.
Oh yeah. Hey, at least it was cooked meat, right?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Looks like a turkey leg or something.
Hey, he's like eating like a liver or something, like a raw piece of chicken or something.
He's just all...
No, that is one scene. He's eating the hand. See?
He's all looking. No one's watching me. Oh, that's fucking awesome.
And this is where they realize they're like screwed.
Yeah, they're like, dipshit blew up the truck.
Right.
Nothing we can do now.
We don't have very long to wait. We can leave. Well, we better leave soon. It's 10 minutes to 3.
You know anything about this area at all? I mean, is Willard the nearest town?
I don't know. We were...
I may have asked this already, but I don't know if I asked this correctly. I may have already asked, how's the sound? But I meant, does the movie volume sound okay? Because I'm playing it back through my screen, or through my monitor, you know, and I'm not really hearing it very much. So I'm just curious if it's coming through to you guys okay. The movie, of course.
Hold on a second. Yeah, I got the volume down.
Bit her on the arm.
What's wrong?
Who knows what kind of disease those things carry? Is she conscious?
Yeah, the sound
She can't walk. She's too weak.
the sound quality on the actual movie itself is kind of low.
Well, one of us
Oh, okay.
into the car.
You're gonna turn it over by
Okay, so the overall movie just sounds low.
Yeah, like I can hear you fine. It's just like the sound of the movie is low.
Yeah, I know. But
Here, I'll max out the sound so you guys can hear a little bit of the movie with us. A little bit more of the movie. Let me see.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, there is sound. Cool. If it gets too loud, let me know.
heard closely by scientists.
Look at this crazy people eating these
At this hour,
eating the meat.
the level of the mysterious radiation continues to increase steadily. Remains, the spokesman warned that dead bodies will continue to be transformed into the flesh-eating ghouls. All persons who die during this
Awesome. Good to
process,
hear. Thanks.
from whatever cause,
Appreciate it.
will come back to life to seek human victims unless their bodies are first disposed of by cremation.
It's one of those things, man. You kind of learn as you go, man, because
A search and destroy operation
you know we're gonna get better when we do these live streams, and we'll figure things out. And
Butler County, Pennsylvania.
it's kind of a test run when we do these things.
Yeah.
All law
You know,
enforcement agencies
once it's live, it's live. There's not much you can do from there.
search out and
Right.
destroy the marauding ghouls. The Survival Command Center at the Pentagon has disclosed
This scene right here, where the people are out killing people, is kind of like Dawn of the Dead,
or a heavy blow to the skull.
and that might have been.
Quoted as
Every time I watch this movie, I always think that's kind of how George Romero was trying to link Dawn of the Dead with the Night of the Living Dead, because you remember in Dawn of the Dead where all the rednecks were out there, they're all drinking and stuff, and they're shooting the zombies out in the field and stuff.
Yeah.
And this is kind of similar. It's got like the police, and they're out like kind of hunting down these zombies.
Chief McClellan, how's everything going?
Oh, things aren't going too bad. Men are taking it pretty good. You want to get on the other side of the road over there?
Chief, do you think we can defeat these things?
Well, we killed 19 of them today right in this area. And those last 3 we caught trying to claw their way into an abandoned shed. They must have thought somebody was in there. There wasn't, though. We heard them making all kind of noise. We came over and beat them off, blasted them down. Yeah, okay.
Chief, if I were surrounded by 6 or 8 of these things, would I stand a chance with them?
Well, there's no problem. If you had a gun, shoot them in the head. That's a sure way to kill them. If you don't, get yourself a club or a torch. Beat 'em. They go up pretty easy.
Well, Chief McClellan, how long do you think it will take you until you get the situation under control?
Well, that's pretty hard to say. We don't know how many of them there are. We know when we find them, we'll
Spilled.
kill 'em.
Are they slow moving, Chief?
Yeah, they're dead.
This
All messed up.
the video we have on there, and I think it's weird because I think the timing is like a little bit slower or like a little bit faster, because they were linked at one point. Like I had my movie that I was watching on my VHS like timed exactly with our stream,
Thank you very much, Chief.
but for some reason now they're not matched up now. Like mine's like way ahead of the stream.
Official spokesman
It's weird.
declined to speculate just how long it may take.
Yeah. Steven, I accidentally spilled on myself. Man, that happened to me in jury duty, just like 2 weeks ago. I'm in there. It's all silent. I'm on the juror's chair, and I'm in there, and I open a brand new water, and just all over me, just water in front of everybody, dude. It was so embarrassing.
Power lines are down.
But you,
No.
so you're a little bit ahead of us, you said?
No, I mean I had my I was watching Night of the Living Dead on my VHS player,
Already on account of that gun.
and I had it timed so it was the same time as our live stream. So like the screen, the image was exactly the same. But for some reason now mine's like 15 seconds ahead of our live stream. I don't know how it happened because there were times exactly the same. So the only thing I think of is that it's like slightly slower on the live stream than it is in the on my actual movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll happen, yeah. Just like chucks it through.
So what should we do next? I'm thinking we should do in the near future. We definitely need to do Walking Dead.
Oh
Walking
yeah.
Dead Live.
Yeah, Walking Dead.
Go ahead, James.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, a Walking Dead one, like a live stream like this, or like a live stream with us just discussing what we what we think is gonna happen, addressing rumors and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think we should just talk about like our thoughts on the Walking Dead and all the different seasons, kind of like a retrospective of the different seasons, and kind of like from the beginning to now, like what our thoughts on the series is and where we think the series is gonna go in the future. You know, because I could really sit there and talk a lot about season 3 and 4, because season 3 and 4 were like my favorite seasons. When they were in the jail, when they were in the prison, that was my favorite. Those 2 seasons, season 3 and 4, were like my favorite seasons.
Yeah, I really like season 1 through 3 a lot.
Oh yeah, and I actually kind of enjoyed it when they were just all like roaming around with like they didn't have a place to hold up at, and they were like constantly on the run from the zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, that was like I enjoyed that aspect of it too, because there was like a little bit of survivalism too. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Now it's like it's too easy for them. Like they've got everything made. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't have to like survive at all.
Yeah, solar panels now and all kinds of shit.
Yeah, I mean it's not really about the zombies anymore. It's about, or I should say, the walkers. It's not about the walkers anymore. It's about them like fighting each other. You know.
So Martin says he hasn't watched past season 1. I'd recommend giving it a watch. I can say the first like maybe 4 seasons were like top notch in my opinion, but then it started getting like a little less watered down. But yeah, I'll check out season 2. I enjoyed season 2 on the farm. A lot of people did not like season 2. I actually enjoyed it. I think the Shane and Rick dynamic really brought the season out. So yeah, Walking Dead discussion, man. We gotta do that. Hell yeah.
Definitely, man. There's so much we could talk about with The Walking Dead between all the different seasons, all the different characters that have been on The Walking Dead. I mean, there's so many characters that are not on the show anymore, which I absolutely love. Shane being one of them. I wish they would have somehow kept his character in the story. I would have loved that.
Yeah.
And I was actually kind of hoping, which I mean, it's still up in the air. I would love to see them bring him back somehow, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, Shane?
Yeah, I think John Bernthal's kind of like moved on. He's a little bit too in high demand now to come back to The Walking Dead. He's got so much going on that he's tied in with. It'd be really hard to bring him back. I mean, you have to pay him a lot of money probably to get him back to come back to The Walking Dead.
Apparently, he's coming back this season.
Yeah, he's going to do, I think...
An episode?
I was thinking he was actually going to play a bigger role, but apparently he's just going to be in like a cameo.
Yeah, like 1 episode cameo or something.
Yeah, like a flashback or something.
Flashback or a Rick death scene of him seeing all of the survivors from Atlanta or something weird shit. Yeah, something. Maybe Rick is bleeding out and he's hallucinating and he sees him and everyone. Yeah.
Well, what I was hearing is that basically they're going to kind of explain what was going on a little bit between when Rick was in a coma the first time.
Mm.
And you know how like when Rick was in a coma and he was coming out of a coma and he was having like these flashbacks of him and Shane in the car, and they were talking about, and Rick was talking about how like his marriage to God, what the heck's her name? His marriage was like really poor. Yeah, Lori. His marriage with Lori was really bad and stuff. And I think you're gonna see a little bit of that, like kind of like a backstory. I don't know if it's necessarily gonna be flashbacks, but it'll probably be like a backstory of Rick and Shane's relationship. That's what I think is gonna happen. And maybe a flashback, like right before he's about to die, and then Shane's gonna be like, basically, I told you so. I told you you couldn't save this group. I told you you weren't a leader. You know what I mean? You should have listened to me or something like that.
Yeah, because he did say that. He's like, I'm a better man than you, Rick.
He was warning him. He's like, you're not going to be able to protect Lori and Carl. You're not going to be able to protect them. And the fact that Judith is Shane's kid, that just makes the whole thing makes more sense to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, out of all of them, she survived. You know.
She's the only one that survived, and it's not even his kid. It's like Shane's. So it makes you think, like, what would have happened if Shane survived? Would they be in a better situation now with Shane as a leader over Rick? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I picture him being like a really hard ass though. Not like Negan or the governor, but you know, like no limitations. You know, we're not letting people in. You're gonna die. Keep a close, small group.
I think it would be definitely more of a small group. I think he'd be kind of like a exactly what we said, like more of a badass. He would kind of like be like doing more risky stuff than Rick. You know, he wouldn't be afraid to kill somebody if it meant to save the group. You know.
Yeah, something Rick had a hard time doing for a while.
Yeah, Rick had more morals than Shane did. Shane realized that, look, in the post-apocalypse, you can't have morals. You kind of got to like do what's best for yourself and the people you love.
Yeah.
So I think honestly, I feel like Shane was a little bit more ahead of the time. Like he knew he was already doing things that they're doing in fucking like season 6 and 7. Like he was already thinking ahead. Like, look, this is gonna come down to you know, us versus all the other survivors. It's not even about the freaking zombies. Like we have to survive each other.
Yeah.
He was already figuring that out in season 2. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's just like nobody listened to him.
It would have been an interesting dynamic seeing Shane and Negan, I tell you.
Oh yeah, man, that would have been badass. Now it makes me wonder: would the season drag on as long as it did? Would it go 2 seasons, or would it just go 1 with Shane?
You mean if Shane was alive over Rick?
Right.
Oh, from season 1 and 2?
No, if Shane survived and it was the Negan arc, would Negan have lasted 2 seasons if Shane was alive, or would it only have lasted 1? Would Shane have killed Negan faster if he was still alive?
It's hard to determine because we never actually saw Shane like bow. He was never bowing down. He was like the badass of the group. He was like the not. I mean, you know, he only listened to Rick. Rick was the only person that really could talk sense into him most of the time. So having someone like Negan talk to him like Negan talks to people, I just couldn't see Shane just taking it. Shane just came off as like a a cop who's in the military kind of guy who took no shit from anyone, and he didn't give a fuck if you had a baseball bat with barbed wire. He was gonna, I don't know, he was gonna do a shit. So it would have been really cool to actually see Shane actually kind of maybe allow that to happen. It'd be weird. It'd be definitely an interesting dynamic.
Mm. So now we're at this point in the film, which I was talking about earlier, where all these, like the locals are coming in on the farm, and they're patrolling the fields, and they're shooting all the zombies and stuff, or the ghouls.
Everything appears to be under control.
And we're about to see this controversial scene here.
Yep.
Makes you wonder, man. I always was mad that Ben died in this movie. Like, it pissed me off. Like, I loved Ben's character so much in this movie. Like, I feel like you're rooting for him. At least I was rooting for him. I was like, man, he's the only one that had any common sense. You know?
Yeah.
And he made it to the end, and you just want to see him survive. You know what I mean?
He's the kind of guy you'd want to see with a gun, because he knows what these zombies are or these ghouls are. But as you see here, look at all these people. You see the line of people. What color are they?
Right.
Somebody had a cookout here, Vince.
Yeah, sure looks like it, Tom.
But Ben's like the person, like, if it was a zombie apocalypse and I had to be stuck in a farmhouse, somebody, I'd want to be stuck with him. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
I definitely wouldn't want to be with the guy in the basement, for real.
yeah. He's a survivor.
So my question is, to wrap up this video before we see the final scene, do you take the side of the guy in the basement, or you take Ben's side? And being honest, and I want to hear, like, what your thought is on this, and why you would either be upstairs or downstairs. What would you do?
You asking the people in the comment section or me, or both?
Well, I'll go to you first, James, and then I'll get feedback from somebody else.
Well, I'd say upstairs because you're trapped. You're in the basement. You're trapped. Like who would have thought that he would have survived in the basement with all the ghouls in the house? You're trapped in there. There's no escape. There's no exit. You're down there. So I feel a lot more comfortable being out in the open with the ability to survive rather than trap myself down where a possibility might become the end of my life. You know.
Right. There's no way out, and that's kind of where I would take the stand too. Like, I think initially you're better off down in the basement, but you gotta think down in the basement. Oh, here's the scene right here.
Good shot. Okay, he's dead. Let's go get him. That's another one for the fire.
Yeah, dude, they knew. They knew. I'm sorry. Every time I see this now, they knew.
Yeah, he saw him hold a gun.
Yep, they knew.
No markings on him, nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every time I see this, man, I just reinforces that they knew that he was alive and they just decided to kill him anyways. But anyways, I would definitely be on the side of Ben, because if you're down in the basement and initially you'll probably be fine down there for a while, but you're going to run out of resources, you're going to run out of food. And upstairs, at least you could get out if you have to. You could run away if you had to. You're not trapped in. So I'd be definitely holding up with Ben.
Yeah. I mean, just look at these stills that are going through the credits.
I know, isn't it crazy? I love the ending of this. How it's like all these stills and stuff. And it's kind of like when you watch movies, how they do like the what do they call those things where like they do like the goofy scenes and everything?
Oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah. But
like the unseen footage that like they taken out of the film that's like doesn't work.
Bloopers and gag reels and stuff.
Yeah, like bloopers and stuff. It's kind of like bloopers, but like it's not meant to be silly or anything, you know? They're just like throwing the bodies in the fire and stuff. They throw Ben's body on there. But you know what's even cool about this scene right here? They put all the people on the fire. It's almost like at the end of the day, we're all the same. We're all going to die the same way. They're just going to get burned into the fire all the same way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a little hidden Easter egg from George Romero there too.
Yeah.
So Steven said that he would definitely be on the side of Ben. Have to agree. Ben all the way. I'm on Ben's team.
Yep. Absolutely, man. I mean, he's a survivor.
Oh yeah. That is the end of the video.
It is.
That was awesome, guys. I really enjoyed that. It was really cool. Appreciate everybody that's been tuning in with us. And I'm going to share my kind of final thoughts on this Night of the Living Dead stream. That I kind of thought about this. I know it was kind of last minute. I was thinking about almost like a week before. If some of you, if you've been following my channel, I've got my second volume of the Forgotten series, which I'm going to be reviewing zombie films. So these are like my favorite, or maybe the most controversial or most influential zombie films that I can find. I'm going to talk about them. Thanks a lot, Steve and Nitrum. Appreciate it. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about those movies in my volume 2. And so I started to really just start to rewatch these films, and it made me think a lot about Night of the Living Dead and how much I really enjoyed that film, and how influential it was on all the zombie films. that's kind of why I wanted to do this. I know it was like kind of like an afterthought. I thought about doing it like last minute. I got to talking to James about it, and James said he'd definitely be down to do it. So I hope everybody enjoyed this live stream, and in the future, I definitely want to do more.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. You know, I think it's really cool to get together. You know, I mean, we don't even know each other. None of us have actually met one another, but we can all take something as simple as horror movies or just movies in general, and we can all share this thing. You know, this love for movies in general, and we get to chat with one another over it, and bond and communicate. It's just a really fun, cool little concept, but behind what's going on here, and I would love to do more. Absolutely,
definitely. And if you all want to join in on a live stream sometime, we'll have to reach out to each other. Maybe we could all get together on a live stream. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool. Hell yeah.
All right, well, thanks everybody for tuning in. I think we're gonna wrap it up here.
Cool.
Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll be back for more live streams in the future. So definitely drop us some comments on our videos and let us know what you want us to do. I've got some good ideas tonight. Definitely think about doing the Scream, Chucky films. Halloween definitely is on top of our list, and The Walking Dead in the future as well.
Yes. Absolutely, yeah. And I'll go ahead and re-upload this video onto my channel later on tonight. So yeah, man, very fun stream. Glad you had me. You invited me out to do this, man. It was a cool experience, a lot of fun. Good seeing you guys here to chat horror movies in general and this movie in general. It was cool to have everyone's opinions, and just it was just an overall fun time. Thanks a lot, guys.
Take it easy.
All right, you guys have a wonderful night. Peace.